Good morning, everybody. Hi. It's a pleasure to be here in sunny Minnesota and with all of you. And also, it's great to be reading among poets who I actually read and enjoy and respect. So I really look forward to all the presentations and dialogues. And many thanks to the organizers. What I want to start with is a quote from Radical Poetic Secular Jewish Poetry book, which came out a few years ago, and a few people in this room contributed to, a book that had an immediate influence on me. And this quote kind of exemplifies the line of thought that became important to me. And the quote is from Charles Bernstein's essay. The often frame-locked focus on Jewish content as the sine qua non of Jewish literature has distracted from recognition, not so much of Jewish forms, whatever they might be, as from formal, rhythmic, dialectical, and dialogical and colloquial dimensions of literary, musical, and visual works that do not have explicit Jewish thematic focus. So with that in mind, I want to start with two poems that I'll read, two poems that have that engage this rhythmic, dialectical, dialogical, colloquial aspect of things that I heard around me as I was growing up in a Jewish family in a small town in the middle of Ukraine. So this piece is called 1 Year Plan. Before we get going, let's all sit down. Everyone should be buttoned up to the top in the style of great Chairman Mao. Everyone may now approach the subject with a helmeted helmet, which clangs convivially as we waltz all night. And how wonderful the weather here feels like Crimean mountains, the tip of Greece, Middle East, the good parts. Here in the middle of nameless steppes, agrarian corn heaven, each kernel as big as a wisdom tooth, and glistening as we waltz all night, as we tumble into victory, assured by new coughing, new sneezing, refrigeration facilities, and the stolen light bulbs that will last us the rest of this unforgettable year. So that's 1 year plan. Thank you. Along those lines, this piece is called Same Ass, but View Sideways. Mirrors of fat circle faithfully, evading the spoon. Let me tell, exactly the type of a girl. That's all right. That's not what Gentile women love us for. Though one day they tell you who. Yes, this world, etc. Pushkin, Mandelstam, the radio. In these pants? What you know is every buttock in this town tapped, each one, lovingly, on public transportation. With your grocery bags, already a provider, a real man. They spend their dough drinking, but we invite relatives and talk and eat. We talk the way we eat, in circles, blowing. Coming back to Bernstein's quote, should say that content and forms, Jewish forms, have been of some importance to me, and here's why. When I came to the States at the age of 15, I didn't have a concept that Judaism existed as a living religion. It really did not add up in my head at all. And when I encountered it, I was very much taken by it. And to the extent that I attended Yeshiva University as an undergraduate, and there I encountered some classic Jewish texts, the Talmud, Midrash, commentators, and I've experimented with some of the forms that I found in those texts, in the book, Jazz Talmud, but also throughout I'll sort of throw them at you, those forms. This is one of the pieces from the book. It's called Loophole, which is, Loophole is like this quintessential Talmudic move. And it starts with a quote from the Talmud. Said Rav Ashi, on Shabbos, when laying down on a straw bed, one must not move a straw with his hand, yet he may move it with his body. If you must move that which cannot be touched, move it, touching it in a way nobody would ever think of touching it. Being something that doesn't happen, it's not going to happen. When there is no word to describe what you're doing, you can get as close as you like. And this is the secret of closeness to the great untouchable, to the great center of the invisible, moving near you like a gullible bird, moving straight into your Talmudic glove, set at the gaping mouth of the loophole. Thank you. Well, as I encountered traditional forms of Judaism and lived amongst it all, that experiment sort of ended up in a ditch, in a sense, as I also encountered, fundamentalism and dogmas and all those things, and trying to locate that ditch that I'm in and describe it and, deal with the void that has come to be as the result. It's another big theme that I'm dealing with in my poetry. In a sense, you could say that void is also room for poetry. And this piece is called Revisiting. That feeling of coming in somewhere and not, knowing where to sit down or whether your zipper is open or something, and shuffling and covering up, variously bending one of the knees or both, is how it feels now to close my eyes in Shmoneh Esrei, the 18 whispered blessings, memories, shaky room. What do I do with it now? This piece is called Medievaluation Rag. Well, I get medievaluated a lot, and in front of my own bathroom mirror. The beliefs, man, ones. Either I'm led or guided, and that hasn't changed, but what by the context is stretchable to almost reasonable. Still though, after everything, you would think, but there is me, candle lit, adding up my history, lottery like, the dues, of course. I can contract out whenever, but it's not about that. Not eclecticism, not narrowing of the vision, more about a rag on the strings of a prepared piano. And I learned about prepared pianos and things you could do sort of inside the instrument as you reach into the strings or as you put stuff on the strings of the piano and complicate the thing, the outcome of what you're trying to play. As I hung out listening to John Zorn and his circle of radical Jewish music culture in New York, and I learned a lot from the musicians. I've collaborated with them. I wrote things listening to their music, and this piece is the direct result of that interaction. It's the freshest poem in the batch that I'm reading today, and it's part of the series of poems that evoke a score rather than a poem as such. It's called Concept Score number 23. A trio of suitcase hearts. The ex-Hallelujah Brooklyn crew. Harmony ends where cheers begin. Camera of a mind spins, panoramic, repeating, re-encircling, speeds excess over a warm axis, a ruler of all things, admitting its own dimensions, naked in front of some blue mirror, dieting, finally, fanatically, hands raised. That I don't know, but I heard, we all heard it, from the horse's mouth. Thank you. This is called Painter's Niggin, and it's a poem written in response to a composition by Frank London, another one of the musicians who's been a great influence on me. He wrote sort of like a riff on the Hasidic chant, Nigun, and this is my riff on his riff. This is a song of people painting walls of a shul that does not exist. Paint rolls upwards, pulled by other gravities, pulled by other voices and stars and possibilities you could be. Celebrating a bris, a yontif, air thickens with paint, inanimate, painted with breath, breathes, as it is said, living words, painting walls on a scaffolding of a drum solo, of fists banging on a table, a fist banging on a podium, feet stomping on the floor, which is a real floor. It really exists, but the scaffolding is full of paint. Scaffolding is a face of a shul that does not exist. The sound rises like an animal walks, moving its burden to the pit built for the chazan, as it is said. From the depth, this yontif commemorates what has never happened. But the paint rolls like walls, stands like the sea, walls rising mercurially. As I'm, let's see if this works. Just finishing up. I think I need some help with the laptop. We need a login. I want to.
All secrets.
Yes.
The password's always teacher.
Oh. Teacher. So I'm gonna play a track that I recently recorded with Frank London, who I just mentioned, and then I'm closing up with this. This is a Talmudic poem, and I'm gonna show also the text of the poem because as musicians we're improvising a bit, quite a bit. I was trying to improvise as well, and as this is a Talmudic poem, Talmud was conceived as an oral tradition, and improvisation is something that's naturally part of it. So, here's the piece. Mishnah of loneliness. Behold, there are 3 types of loneliness in the world: green, red, and purple. So they said in the house of Hillel. But in the house of Shammai they said, loneliness, it's either black or white. All of the types don't even exist. All of the types cross the street when you see them. And if you touch them, you gotta bring a sacrifice of a young goat, your internal goat. Said Rava, in all of my years, loneliness I have not known. All day, I'm at the yeshiva, surrounded by my students, and their big spirits, and their big thoughts, and their divots, and their reflections. A whole full house, what kind of loneliness is that? And then I get home to a full house of the proverbial nachas, the unraveling domestic tractates. One day,
I looked inside myself. I said, I can't take it anymore. I walked out of the door and threw my hands upwards and said, Arkestra, Master, I want you alone, in absence, in wordless music, peaceful music of our togetherness. Right then, I saw this ladder reaching all the way to the throne on high. The throne, it was empty. But up and down, there went all the lost sounds, the forgotten intonations, sunken languages, great ideas, improvised in the middle of you, dream in the middle of you, sleep, all the lost concepts, flashes of genius left on the subway, slip-ups, swallowed hallucinations that I swore my hallucination is not gonna be one with, the choked on ecstasies, a whole decontextualized orchestra, racing, leaping like a bunch of goats coming through the fog. The voice said, Rama, this is the center of my absence, the music of my cosmic loneliness. Is this what you were looking for? You like it? Go home! Stuff your ears with pages of sophistry. Eat something. Make a bad pun. For that is the meaning of peace.
Thank you very much.